Melissa Rubel from Quilty Zest, and this is the week 3 video for the Strippy Improv Holiday Quilt Along. If you haven't joined yet, it's not too late. You just need to head over to my Etsy shop and grab the pattern. The Strippy Improv Holiday pattern includes 11 different block designs that you can use with my technique of combining Strippy Improv piecing and reverse applique to create fun holiday quilts. You can see some of my blocks and finished quilts behind me, and we'll be talking about those today. So for week 3, our job is to make 2 more blocks. For my project for this quilt along, I am doing snowflake and snowman blocks, and then using this cute snowman fabric for the border, and this for my frames. And these are from Cherry Guidry's Nordic Cabin collection from Benartex. So I made my snowman blocks because I had done my snowflake the week before. And we're going to talk today about how to put the reverse applique background onto your strip pieced block. So you can see here's my other snowman in progress, and I've got it all pieced onto the muslin. And then I've got my background piece. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. So as you can see with my finished snowman block, I used a lighter gray than I did for my snowflake block. And so that way when I have them done, I'm going to alternate them and they'll just add a little more interest with the 2 colors of backgrounds. But I also was a little concerned that this fabric might be too light for the background and I might be able to see the strips, especially the black through it. So I'm going to show you what you can do if you also are worried about that. What I did is I cut out a square of Heat and Bond lightweight fusible interfacing, the same size as my background square, and I fused that onto the background square first before I fused on my Heat and Bond light sewable iron-on adhesive. So I've got my snowman drawn on there, and then after I put the interfacing on, I added the snowman. So then I'll just go and cut out around that line, and I'll be ready to put it on top of my piecing right there. But with that extra layer in there, it just makes it a little more opaque so you don't have to worry about any fabric strips showing through from the front. If you're using a much darker fabric like this, you don't have to worry about that, although it does give the block a little more substance than just the fabric. You can see I put a scarf on this guy, a scarf out of some knitted looking fabric that will coordinate really nicely with the hats on my snowman and my border. And if you want to know how to put on the scarf, that was in the week 2 video. So let's just take a peek at what my project is going to look like. Just going to lay this teal out here to be the frame around each of those blocks, and then put the snowman around the side. So that's sort of a little glimpse into what my project is going to look like. So I've had several people ask what I do with the cutout shapes from the reverse applique. And at the moment the answer is I keep them in a pile because I'm sure I can figure out something to do with them, but I have not yet. But these do have fusible on the back and they're ready to be used. I have a friend who made some strip pieced backgrounds and then put these on top, so kind of the opposite of what the blocks look like, which is a fun solution for it. Here's the snowflake one. I thought a bunch of those would be really cute on a background because there's just so much going on in that shape. So definitely hang on to those if you want to play around with something to do with them. So after your backgrounds are fused onto your piecing, the next step is to stitch around the edge of your shape. And there are a couple different stitches you can do for this. The one that I tend to default to is just a straight stitch, and that's because it's the easiest and it's the fastest. And if I'm making a wall hanging where it's not going to be handled a lot, not going to need to be washed a lot, you don't have to worry about protecting that edge quite as much. Here's a look at a version that I made last year, and you can see I used a very similar colored thread to the background and just stitched around the edge to secure it on all of those. So that stitching is more functional than decorative, and it really kind of takes a back seat to the piecing, and that's what I was looking for. Another option is to do a buttonhole stitch, and that's what I did on here. It's really kind of hard to see because I did a really great job matching the thread. So I pulled out another example where I used the buttonhole a little differently, and you can see. This is a heart mini that I made last year, and you can see I used contrasting thread color and also positioned it a little farther out so that the, I don't know what part you want to call it, the perpendicular part of the buttonhole stitch crosses the edge of the applique, but it kind of creates a little, almost a lacy effect. So that's another way that you can use a buttonhole stitch. And obviously by using a contrasting thread, you know, it will show up more and it will become a design element of your quilt. So a third option is to do a zigzag. You may have seen this quilt. This is my Strippy Improv Stars quilt you may have seen on Instagram. And you can see I did a very kind of a smaller and looser zigzag stitch on here because I wanted to cover those edges and secure everything, but I didn't want to have a harsh outline around the stars. So I worked with a matching thread and then just, you know, chose a softer zigzag so that it didn't stand out so much. And then you can see for each color background of the star, I changed the thread so that they don't show up very much, all the way to the darkest color right there. And so it's really fairly invisible. Whatever kind of stitch that you choose, I recommend that you experiment first on some scrap fabric to check out the size that you want of your stitch to be, and to work on the placement so that you can get it as close, you know, you can create an extra applique or sort of a fake applique to practice on the edge and see how your zigzag will cover up both fabrics or that type of thing. But definitely practice and don't just go and wing it on your first block. So last week I talked a little bit about embellishing our blocks, and we talked about embellishing the gingerbread man, putting the scarf on the snowman, and then also how to decorate a tree by trimming it with decorative stitches. There's also some embellishing that you can do after your block is assembled. And some examples of that would be to put coal and carrot nose and stick arms on your snowman, like I did in this mini quilt here. The one block I have not talked about yet in terms of embellishing is the one that I'm probably the most excited about, and that is the snow globe. So let's take a look at what we can do with the snow globe. I've been playing around with fussy cutting some little motifs from two fabrics from the Country Christmas collection, which I'm using to make my 9-block sampler version of the Strippy Improv holiday pattern. And I've got to show you some of the fun things in this fabric. So this is one of the fabrics I was considering for borders, and you can see there's snowmen and a little cabin with snow on top, a dog, some trees, lots of fun choices there. And then this one, for all of the peppermint mocha and latte fans, is all different holiday drinks with little fancy cups and whipped cream and that type of thing. So this would be really fun to fussy cut as well. And I actually did fussy cut some different options to show you. So with the snowman especially, I kept that light blue edge around it because with the snow globe being white, I didn't want it to disappear completely. Now obviously you'll have to think about scale when you do this, but I thought that snowman was really cute. And then there is a little coffee drink with a candy cane in it. And for these I put fusible adhesive on the back of a larger shape before I cut out around the line that I wanted, and then when I choose I'll be able to just fuse it in place, and then I'll do a stitch around the edge to secure that as well. Here's the little cabin, which I think you could combine with a tree, maybe even overlap them to create a little scene. There's a tree with decorations, and also the dog, which could go together or separately. And then this cute little snowman complete with a cardinal. So I've got to choose which one of those I'm going to use on my snow globe, but I've got lots of great choices to pick from. And of course, if you don't have fabric to fussy cut from, you can always use the little tree that was included in the pattern, or you can play around with your own design and sketch something out on fusible web and then fuse it to whatever color fabric you want, and then create your own little scene for your snow globe. But I think that block will be a lot of fun to just really explore some creativity with, and hopefully you do as well. So next week, the fourth and final week of the quilt along, we'll be talking about assembly and finishing. And I'll share a few assembly tips so that your quilt or wall hanging goes together smoothly. And I'll also talk about some alternative finishes so that if you haven't quite gotten to all 4 blocks, or if you want to make a bunch of smaller gifts for friends or family, I'll show you some ideas for finishing just 1 block to make a mini quilt, a hot pad, even a pillow, but just a really fun way to add some holiday cheer to your decorations. So enjoy sewing your 2 blocks this week, and look forward to seeing you next week when we finish up.